Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tearing down the biggest myths of the startup world. Forget all the glamorized headlines. We're diving into the real, hard-won wisdom from serial entrepreneur Jamil Shinawi, someone who's actually been there and done that. So here's what we're going to break down. We're going to look at why a billion-dollar exit might not actually make you rich, why chasing the latest hot trend is probably a bad idea, and a pretty radical take on company culture. And finally, we'll get to the one mindset that truly matters. So let's get into it. All right, first up, let's get to know our guide, Jamil Shinawi. His background is about as unconventional as it gets. He actually studied urban planning, but his real education as an entrepreneur, that started way before college. And it created a playbook that just flips the script on everything you think you know about startups. I mean, just take a look at this timeline. Jamil had his first startup exit when he was only 14 years old. And before he even had a college degree, he'd already built 5 companies and sold 2 of them. It's just a powerful reminder that the traditional path isn't the only one, and sometimes the most important lessons are learned outside of a classroom. Okay, next, let's tackle maybe the biggest myth in Silicon Valley, the billion-dollar exit. You know, you see those headlines and you just assume the founders are instantly billionaires set for life. But as Jamil's own story shows, the number you read in the news is almost never what ends up in the bank. So Jamil was part of a company that got acquired for a staggering $3 billion. I mean, that's the headline number, right? That is the absolute dream for any founder. Now, based on his equity in the company, his personal slice of that pie should have been about $680 million. But that's not what he walked away with. It wasn't even close. His actual take-home pay was less than $20 million. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. That's about a 97% cut from what he expected. So the question is, where in the world did the other $660 million just vanish? Well, it turns out there are these 3 payout villains. First, you've got taxes, which can take a huge bite if you don't plan for it. Second, weird international withholding rules can just trap your money. But the biggest monster of them all is often this thing called liquidation preference. Basically, it's fine print in investment deals that says early investors get paid back first, sometimes multiple times over before the founders or employees see a single penny. It's the clause that can make a fortune disappear overnight. All right, let's bust another myth. The idea that you should always chase the hype. Right now, that hype is all about one thing, AI. But according to Jamil, if you're just following the buzz, you've already lost. His fund, well, it does the complete opposite. His fund literally asks this question. While everyone else is throwing money at AI, they are deliberately staying away. Now, why on earth would you take a stand against the biggest, hottest trend in tech? The logic is actually pretty simple. You don't make game-changing returns by following trends. You make them by creating them. By the time something is a buzzword on the news, the best opportunity has probably passed. The real value is in building whatever comes next. And this table really lays it out. Hype investing is all about what he calls commodity tech. You know, simple AI apps built on top of someone else's platform. But his fund focuses on deep tech. That means foundational, platform-level science, breakthroughs in new materials or biology. They're not just trying to ride the wave, they're trying to build the machine that makes the next one. Now get ready for this next one, because it's a really radical idea that goes against everything we're taught about company loyalty. You know, most companies want you to stay forever. Jamil's company, they actively push people out the door. You heard that right. His company has a mandatory 5-year limit for everyone, including the founders themselves. It sounds totally crazy at first, but there's a surprisingly powerful logic behind it. It actually creates this amazing win-win. For the company, it means less politics, less stagnation, and a constant flow of fresh ideas. And for the team members, well, it's incredibly empowering. Knowing you have an expiration date forces you to think like an entrepreneur from day one. The company basically becomes an incubator for its own alumni. This next myth is one of the biggest ones out there, this idea of the power of the pedigree. You know, the belief that if your resume has all the right big-name companies on it, you've basically got a golden ticket to success. We all know these names, right? Ex-Google, ex-McKinsey. And the assumption is that hiring someone from one of these places is a safe bet. But Jamil argues that this so-called pedigree is actually one of the worst ways to predict if someone will succeed at a startup. And here's why that pedigree is basically meaningless. The skills you need to succeed inside a giant corporation with huge budgets and established processes, they're the total opposite of what it takes to build a company from nothing. A fancy resume, as Jamil puts it, often just means you can fool people into giving you money faster. The real issue is this whole rubber stamp cycle we've created. Go to a good school, get a job at a good company, and then get easy funding. Jamil says we have to break that cycle. Instead of asking about all your corporate successes, he wants to hear about your failures. Because it's the resilience you learn from failing, not from succeeding, that really shows if you have what it takes to be a founder. So, if it's not about the giant exits, or chasing the hot trends, or having the perfect resume, what's left? What is the one thing that really separates a startup scene that thrives from one that just doesn't? It all comes down to a single, simple concept: an abundance mindset. This is the core belief that there's enough success, enough resources, enough opportunity to go around for everybody. It's a mindset that chooses collaboration over competition, where one person's win is seen as a win for the entire community. And this is really the ultimate takeaway. What makes or breaks a startup ecosystem isn't the amount of money flowing in or even the number of good ideas. It all comes down to the mindset of the people in it. A culture of scarcity, where everyone's fighting for their little piece of the pie, will always lose. But a culture built on a belief in abundance, well, that has unlimited potential. So we'll leave you with this one question to think about. After hearing all these common beliefs about money and trends and resumes get completely torn apart, which one of those myths might be holding you back?